Welcome to Exception Seekers, the show where we challenge conventional views on youth mental health and explore stories and experiences that offer alternative perspectives. I'm your host, Colleen McLean, and today I sit down with James Bowler, who is a community-focused journalist living in Muskoka. James has a production company, North Star Networks. Shout out, he does our production. And through his work, through his entrepreneurial side, he really focuses on elevating community voices through storytelling. He has a special place in his heart for mental health advocacy through his own journey of mental health and his experiences in working with young people in various capacities. And today he takes us back into all that led him to where he is today. So have a listen and enjoy. Being a young person can be tough. Raising a young person can be tough. Whether it's school stress, family dynamics, or navigating challenging emotions, everyone needs the right support. That's where Sound Youth Counseling comes in. We specialize in helping children ages 4 and up through individual, parent, and family counseling tailored to meet each person's unique needs. From tackling tough issues at home or school, to providing customized workshops and professional development for teachers and community leaders, we're here to make a difference. At Sound Youth Counseling, we believe young people deserve a safe, welcoming, and accepting space to grow and thrive, and every family deserves the tools to support them. If you're looking for support, visit soundyouthcounseling.ca and see how we can help. Sound Youth Counseling, empowering individuals, supporting families, and building stronger communities. James, welcome.
Thank you.
So nice to be able to, I've been so looking forward to this. We've been like back and forth on like kind of the back end of this podcast for so long. And now getting you across from me to actually, on the other side of things is kind of exciting.
You know what? I will tell you this, and I don't say this to many people. I hate talking on a microphone. I've always done it. Like I've been in radio. I started in radio in 2009 when my teachers in college were like, "We think you should try this out." And I was like, "All right." And so I went and talked on the radio, and I was like, "Is this good?" And they were really surprised that I was just like
could do
a fish to water. And they were like, "People get so nervous doing that." I'm like, "What? I can't. There's no one here. Like, why would I be nervous?" Yeah. But I still don't like it because I don't like hearing my own voice, which is I think a common thing for people.
For sure.
But yeah, it's so I'm going outside my comfort zone a little bit on this, even though I do this.
I was going to say, even though you do this all the time.
Yeah. It's a little different when you're not reading from a script, when you're off the cuff.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
So.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for facing your discomfort.
My fingers.
And doing this. This is good. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was sort of how you got to where you are. And so, I mean, you kind of mentioned in college and with radio and.
So I'll try to close notes it because it's a long story.
Okay.
But essentially, I'm 43. And so if you do the math correctly, I was in college in 2009 in my mid-20s. A little later than most people would do. So it actually wasn't my first foray in college. I actually went in 2001 to do a television broadcast, ironically, program. The problem was at the time, there's other issues that we can touch down on in terms of me being neurodivergent and everything. But the biggest issue was that they were working with analog technology still, and we were moving out of the cusp of digital technology at that point. Okay. And I had done a lot of training and I had worked in 3D programming in high school. Like I actually became very proficient in how to create 3D renderings of videos and things like that. So I was coming out of that, and then they're like, "Here's a Super 8 camera." Or is it not a Super VHS, not Super 8? And it wasn't that far back.
I was just going to say you put it on the VHS.
Yeah, I know. It was a super, they called it a Super SVHS. Okay. It was a special VHS tape that you put in these cameras. And I was like, I know what's going to happen here. I'm going to go into the workforce and not have the correct training for this.
Yeah, have to be. You'll already be out of date.
Yeah. I'm a dinosaur before I even start.
Yeah.
So I dropped out. and ended up working for a couple of years in 9-to-5s and call centers and other places. Had quite an interesting bit of a gambit of working in different careers for a bit.
Yeah.
And then in 2007 or 8, I think it was 2008, I was working at a Leon's and not around here. And I was like, you know what? I'm kind of done with this.
Yeah.
I need to find something that brings me more satisfaction of a career. Mm-hmm. So I went to the course book for Loyalist College, which is where I'd gone before.
Okay.
And during that time, I had really gotten into creative writing, but also I felt very I liked talking about what was happening in the community and being knowledgeable and stuff. Yeah, okay. So journalism immediately stuck out to me. And it was, at the time, it was a print journalism course. It was a 2-year course. So I applied for it and they accepted me. And I was like, great, I'm going to go in 2009 with this print journalism course and it's going to be awesome. Then I got an email saying, hey, we've actually updated this course and now it's a 3-year course, advanced diploma, with multimedia journalism. So it's not just print, it's radio and television and online. Which was surprising because that was the college that was still living in the dinosaur age when I went to before. Yes. Now they were on the cutting edge of technology.
They saw the
writing on the wall, I guess. So I was like, you know what? Sure. I had considered that maybe I should do print because I liked writing, but why not? And I got into the course in 2009 and immediately you kind of, the course was set up that you could, for the first year, experience all of the mediums. Okay. And then the second year you would choose which one you wanted to go into, basically.
Yeah.
And within that first year, they, as I think we talked about before, they approached me one day, I think a couple of months in, and they were like, we need somebody to go on air. Right. And we think that you would, I have no idea why. I don't know what, they didn't give me any reason why I presented like this, but they just came to me and they were like, we think you would be a good on-air presence, basically. And I was like,
for a college radio?
College radio, yeah, 91X.
There you go. Anyone listening?
Any 91X fans out there? I used to be on it, reading the news. So anyways, they asked me to do it. They said, can you read this news report as a tester? And I did. And they were like, yep, you nailed it. Let's put you on. Right. And they hired me to do morning news. And this was long before I should have been doing this because second year is when you would do that stuff and not even get hired yet. You'd probably get hired in third year.
You were just ahead of your time.
I was just ahead of my time, I guess. They liked what they heard and they thought, okay. So that ended up putting me on the career path in radio. And I decided, okay, well, I'm already doing this, so that's the path I'll choose. And went down the radio route. We did some news coverage. I actually worked in a live newsroom in 2010 at the school and 2011. But I also was working at the local radio station, Mix 97, which is a pretty popular radio station in Belleville. Okay. And I became so immersed. Actually, my final year of college, I ended up working every single day at Mix 97 between the newsroom at the college, the radio in the morning for 91X, and working Mix 97 on weekends. I worked every single day of that year, college year, from September to May, even on holidays and weekends. Every single day I was doing something on air. It was a lot. It was crazy. I was
also built a lot of experience.
It was it was a superpowered amount of experience I suddenly had. Yes. So, and that led me down the path I went on. Basically, I went to Newfoundland after I graduated for a little bit, worked with CBC, and then I was out in Saskatchewan working in Prince Albert for a couple of years on radio there. And then I wanted to get back to Ontario back in 2015 because my niece had just been born the year before, and I wanted to be a little closer to her. So I found the gig with Moose FM and ended up working there for
out of
Muskoka,
Bracebridge. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So and that's what led me to here. Eventually, I decided I'd try television and ended up with Your TV and
which is where you are now.
Where I am now, but I kept the audio love roots and I built on it. It's something that I always do. If I find something I really enjoy, I tend to delve pretty deep into it.
Yes.
And I decided, last year that because I knew so much about audio and I was really feeling competent in how to work with audio, that I should maybe start trying to produce podcasts.
Right.
And here we are now.
Here we are now.
A whole business later.
Yes. Yeah. Like since you've started your own production company. Yeah. Podcasts, but you also write.
I do scripted series as well so North Star Networks is the main company, the company itself. And then under that, there's a branch called North Star Entertainment that primarily focuses on fictional series, scripted series.
That you write?
That I do write some of them,
Okay, yeah.
We're working on getting different voices in there. I'm just, I'm warming the engine up basically so other people can get in the car.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've seen surprising success with that actually. I'm always very because, North Star Networks, the business was meant to be more of the focus really, to do business focused podcasts.
Yeah.
And because I had all the equipment and everything, I was like, I'm really interested, as I alluded to before, I'd been doing a lot of writing before I went to school, and creative writing has always been kind of in my blood. And I listened to a lot of scripted series podcasts, and I was like, I would like to prove to myself that I can do this. I know all of the ins and outs of how to do it. So I'm going to write this, and then I'm going to find some local actors, and I'm going to put this together.
Yes.
And I did that with Rewind, and ever since, it's just exploded. People are hugely into it. I've got thousands of listens to it now,
That's
mostly
amazing.
in the States. Yeah, it's crazy. I never anticipated that to happen. That wasn't my intention.
Yes.
But, it is validating, too, that people like it so much. So, So it's really taken off. And then, of course, I'm still doing the business stuff as well.
Yeah.
So really the goal, I think, is to create a scenario for myself where I'm no longer answering to people. That's kind of become a bit of a point of contention for me.
Yeah. Something that you drive the direction.
Yeah. I'm responsible for myself as opposed to other people's expectations. And I don't like the idea of, I say this without any criticism to the job that I've had for the last 7 years. This has been a very good company to work for. But overall, I do think there's a corporate problem, and I just don't like the way the system is.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and I'm not going to fix it. So I've decided, I think it's best to try to pull myself out of it over time. And that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Well, knowing you as someone who is, I see you as someone who's very value driven. You kind of. What's important,
exactly.
And you want to find opportunity that does that. So through the podcast, so you're writing, even that, right? This is your creative expression, yes, but the fact that you're bringing in local actors, and it's it's got that community building piece
definitely
too, right?
That's
which,
really been
fits you so much.
Well, it's been an important component because yes, I think at the very base level, this is for me, and nobody can lie to themselves about how they're driven. We're all driven by our own egos. That's just fact. Everything we do is based around some level of ego that we have for ourselves. And I'm not saying, and we had this conversation before too, of putting negative connotations on words. Ego doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think primarily ego is a good thing. It's what makes us all very different people, and I don't think being driven by ego is a bad thing either. For a regular person, like you or I, you have sound youth counseling, but I would suspect that your good ego played a role in pushing that, pushing you to start your own business and to help people because that's the function that you want to have. That's where your ego lies. And for me, my ego lies in doing what I think is best for me, but also benefits the people around me. And that's why it was very important for me to involve other people and to give them just as much recognition and respect as me. So when I talk about Rewind a lot, I always talk about how everyone has helped me bring it together. I recognize you can't do it without other people.
Yes.
And so being able to involve them and give them their own exposure and hopefully have them build a love for what they've created in it as well is really the most important thing to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really special about opportunities that are created in more rural spaces too.
Absolutely.
I think it's just so sometimes we're overlooked and
we definitely do get
we're
overlooked.
On the fringes, we're just, I think, the big companies aren't there, or maybe they wouldn't be the right venue anyways. But I think there's a reason there's so many entrepreneurs in smaller
There's a lot, especially around
right?
here.
It's people just saying like, what I want doesn't exist here, so I need to figure out a way to make it happen.
Exactly. And I mean, there are barriers to that, obviously. And, I've been very, very fortunate to at least over time, make enough money to be able to create my little empire that I've created of, it's very small, but,
small but mighty. It
is small. I mean, I've got my own equipment. I've got my own studio. It's, not a physical studio, but in the sense of what I do. And I think anybody can do this, whether or not you have access to those resources. It just means that you maybe have to start a little bit lower than I did,
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that the potential is always there for people to do that. And I did want to say, I mean, obviously this is a podcast about mental health, and all of that lives within this narrative. Like my own mental health lives within this narrative. And I don't think I would have done what I did now, and I wouldn't have taken the journey I did without the previous journey of mental health that I went through.
Okay. Well, now I just want to know.
I want to
know a little bit more about that.
This is the sign of it. I'm a good storyteller because I know how to lead people to the to the plot.
There you go.
So I was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age. I was fortunate enough to have a father who was a physician, and so was very aware of the symptoms of ADHD. But also, I really have to give kudos to my mother, who equally was knowledgeable because she educated herself heavily. Like she was a woman who, if something, especially when it came to her family, if she needed to know something she didn't know, she would become the immediate expert on that thing. And so I grew up with neurodivergency, which at the time in the 90s, like I was diagnosed in the late 80s, I think.
I was going to say it wasn't the
like
same
88, 89.
then
Yeah. It was a very closed-minded system. It was difficult for me as a child, not because I didn't have the supports at home. My parents, as I said, were the best supporters I could have, including my mother, who put me through many different therapies, including there was a stint for about 6 months that I was not allowed to have any kind of dairy product that wasn't powdered goat's milk, because she felt that she had read that milk might, antagonize symptoms. And I was on Ritalin as well. And so there was a bit of an experimental phase, but by no means was that bad. And it wasn't anything negative. It was them trying to figure out the best way to help me. Mm-hmm. But outside of that realm of protection was the real world, and the real world didn't really recognize or sympathize with people with ADHD at the time.
Yep.
The discussion went out that I had ADHD, and that started to put a bit of a target on me from parents, teachers, and even their kids, where I was weird and I was different, and having ADHD meant that you were somehow mentally handicapped in that way,
Yes.
So
you can be othered and
exactly, and so you could see that in the way I was treated from teachers and parents, especially, where there would be a certain tone that would show up whenever I was talked to. Yeah. I was not invited to parties. I was really picked on a lot, as I said, as a kid as well. I got bullied quite a bit.
That would have been so hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like so you're going through not understanding what's going on with your brain because you can't think the same way as other kids.
Yes.
And on top of that, those kids are now treating you differently and pushing you around because you can't think the same as them.
Yes.
But really,
and at a time when there wasn't nearly as much information.
Exactly.
Even now.
People, I mean, aside from my mother, people were not willing to do the self-education, right? We didn't have Google. I mean, we didn't have, if you wanted to know something, you go on, Encarta 95 on your Windows, or you'd open your Britannica, book.
Yep.
Encyclopedia Britannica that you had.
A teacher, it was a very
different. Closed-ended information time.
Yes.
And it just made it more difficult because, people, the prevailing theory was that if you had ADHD, there was something wrong with you and you were going to be difficult. And that was the biggest problem too, was ADHD, if anyone doesn't know, stands for, oh my God, now attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Yes.
And people would fixate on the hyperactivity part.
Yes.
So there was ADD
and
then ADHD.
Yes.
And if you had ADHD, you were a problem child because you were hyperactive.
Yes. So teachers would be like, he's going to be a nightmare.
Exactly. Everything you did, anything you did that was outside of a normal monotone response, you were being hyperactive. You were acting out. You were being aggressive.
Yes.
And none of those things were true, but at the time, that was the stigma that was attached to having ADHD. And so I was continually told to quiet down and, calm down and think before I act and all of those wonderful pieces of terminology.
Think before you act. Yeah. Yeah. And then as a kid, you start to develop, this feeds into your narrative of who you are.
Exactly. I'm a bad kid. I need to mellow out. I need to stay quiet. And so I definitely became a quiet kid that would spend a lot of time playing with Lego and spending a lot of time on my own, which actually led to the creative writing because it was kind of my outlet for a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So in a way, it did benefit me in that way that I was able to find artistic expression through that.
Yes. And then interestingly into media.
Exactly. It kind of fit the narrative.
Your voice actually is wanted and celebrated.
Exactly. It became difficult to, and I still struggle with the idea of I'm not an annoying person or I'm not an outwardly kind of aggressive personality, So it's something I still deal with, and it's difficult because you live with that. You can't just stuff away those feelings that were created for so long, for decades.
Or unhear.
No.
Yeah.
So that really set the tone of who I was as a person. And, much like people with autism, I masked. And that mask stayed on for quite a long time. It's funny, when I was in high school, I remember very vividly making a paper mache mask in drama class. And it was like, there was this description of this is, I want you to create who you think you are in this mask. And I made this mask and it was all green and black. And, I brought it home with me, and a lot of the time I would be in my room and I would just put it on, and I would think this is who I can be with it. I was putting another mask on to be the person that I actually wanted to be.
Yes.
Versus trying
to figure out how to take
non-physical mask off that I'd created.
Right.
So yeah.
Which would be so hard to separate of identity, because
you don't know who you are as a person.
With your mask on, kind of becomes who you think you are.
Exactly. And that happened even in my 20s, I was like that. I mimicked behaviors of other people because I thought that was the way to move forward. And I never really was true to myself as a person.
Yes.
And didn't really come into my own personality until I was well into my 30s, really.
And was that through just aging and growth?
I think it was that. There was definitely that. I think it was a number of different things. It was people around me. There's one guy, and this is actually, again, how my brain loves to work. It just brings up random memories. But there's this one guy. I don't remember his name. He probably would not remember me at all. We worked at a call center together, and one time he said to me, you need to, it's like he saw something in me. He was like, you need to be more aggressive about your own opinions. Yeah. You need to stop letting people walk all over you. And it was kind of unsolicited. I didn't invite him to give me this advice, but it's like he just felt that he needed to give it to me.
Yes.
But it really struck a tone with me. And that wasn't the defining factor of what changed me, but I think it started to make me believe that, you know what, maybe being the person who actually speaks their mind is better than being the person who just accepts what other people say.
Right.
And I think that did start to turn my thought process.
Yes.
So kudos to random dude that I forget the name of for the unsolicited advice.
But it's funny how those little comments that at the time might not mean anything, or you're sort of like, okay.
Yeah.
But then they sit there And then
they percolate.
They do. And then we come back to them. And then years later,
you're just like, oh, wait.
I had this time when this person said something.
It's not the first time I really thought about it either. I've remembered this guy a few times in my life as I've been coming into myself more. And I realized, there was definitely a difficult transition period. I became very angry for a while and would lash out in different things. But I can also see what was happening in the evolution of my personality. Yeah. I was starting to be like, okay, what am I about here? Yeah. And
I think for people who grow up with such, well-established masks, right? Or being told to be quiet or all those things, I think it takes that much longer to try to figure out.
There's a leveling out period, right?
Yeah, I think wait, who am I?
Well, you end up, and maybe this is just my experience, but for me, I ended up being, shut down for so long that when I found the opportunity to start speaking out, I went way too far in the other direction, of being too loud and too aggressive and too angry. And it didn't make me happy. It made me sad that I was so angry all the time, and then I started to meet people that I felt really aligned with me, both politically and socially.
Yep.
Starting to find more people in other communities and cultures that I hadn't experienced before.
Yes.
And starting to realize that I didn't really know what I thought I knew about the world. And that led to a lot of questioning for myself of like, what have I been believing for this time? I was never, I would say that I was never, somebody that was homophobic or racist or anything super
like discriminatory.
Aggressive. Yeah. I definitely was not discriminatory. In fact, I had also in that same vein, I started a Facebook group up years before that in 2007, which was called Support Single Mothers on Welfare. And the catalyst to that was I had a friend who was a single mother, and she was living with welfare she had 2 kids, and she was struggling, trying to put food on the table. A lot of the time I would buy food for her.
Yes.
Because at the time I was living in an apartment that my dad owned, so I had a lot of extra income. And so I would help subsidize stuff. But at that time I knew that there was a problem.
Yes.
And so I started this Facebook group, which I left the group after 3 months because nobody was giving it any attention.
Yes.
This is very typical 2007's Facebook.
I know, I'm also just
everyone
thinking,
creating
Facebook's
groups.
So early. Yes, groups were prolific.
It was a very different thing at the time. It was
and
a very
here's
different
this
beast.
Young single white guy starting a group.
I know about liberating mothers
on,
who are on welfare.
Yeah.
It was empowering for me to know that at least I could do that. I had a voice to be a representative for people who didn't have a voice for themselves, which I think eventually led to the journalism thing. This was pre-journalism.
All these, I'm hearing
it all kind of stacks into one.
It does.
But that has always been, I think, even from childhood. And my mother used to say that. My mother loved to say this when I was a kid. She was like, you always try to help people. You always try to find the person that you feel is being ostracized, and you try to make them feel better about themselves.
Well, you knew what that was like.
Exactly. I think that's probably part of what that was.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had a brief stint of trying to support single mothers on welfare, and then that fell apart immediately. And I moved on to other things. But eventually, when I started working in journalism, I realized that as I was going through, especially when I was living in Prince Albert, that something else was going on with me. And I would cry a lot. I would become very overwhelmed by things. I would always be afraid that something was wrong with me health-wise. I would visit the emergency room a lot, or I would go to the doctor a lot. Everything was too much all the time.
Yes.
And that lasted, I went through that for 4 or 5 years, maybe 7 years, I think I went through that.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
Yeah.
Until I finally... this was actually just before COVID. In 2020, I talked to a friend of mine who's a police officer, and I was at the lowest point of my life. I was just tired all the time. I legitimately felt depressed. Like now I understand what depression is like, because
Yes.
it is heavy, and I knew that I was experiencing it.
Yeah.
Nothing felt good anymore. Nothing made me happy.
Yes.
The world had lost its luster. I was depressed. And so I said to her, I don't know, I'm feeling awful.
Mm-hmm.
And she, recognizing the signs of depression, hooked me up with somebody from the Canadian Mental Health Association.
Yeah.
And they put me in front of a psychiatrist, and he was like, yep, you have generalized anxiety and high depression.
Right.
And that started an entirely new journey of
discovery.
Exactly.
Yes.
Of being, I've gone through this process of being someone who has been too quiet, and then too loud, and then too aggressive, and then trying to figure out who I am. And now here I am trying to deal with the fact that I'm...
Now you're too anxious and too sad.
Exactly. And I'm broken in some way, right? So, which at the time felt like that. And, I don't want to go into too many rabbit holes here, but I think there is something to be said about that I was a man, and I felt for a long time that as a man, it was incorrect for me to be as sad as I was, or to try to express these things. Like I should have manned up. A lot of the time I would hear,
Right.
like, you got to get tougher skin,
Yes.
those types of things. And I
Yes.
think because I was a man, that was really part of why I was going through that.
Right.
I didn't feel like I could really express myself, because what man does that? I had
Right.
nobody
Yes.
in my life that really did that type of expression, self-expression.
Yes. I think there is still for sure a different stigma around
This
that.
still exists.
For sure. Yes.
And it's difficult to see from the outside in now, and that I had gone through that, and I broke out of that.
Yes.
I would say...
But we need voices like yours
Well,
for that, right? Like there's a space for that, and it's so important.
This is where I credit women, because I've been very lucky enough for a good chunk of my life, in career life, to have a lot of women that were in some type of managerial position above me, or something like that. And more often than not, of course, this is not every single woman. I don't brush everyone in the same brush, either positive or negative. Not all of them were a positive experience, but the majority of them were more of an uplifting and understanding and empathetic type of experience.
Yes.
And it made me realize that it's good to express yourself, because it definitely, it helps figure out where you're at as a person.
Yes.
And then that led to me being more doing inner
Like self-reflective.
self-reflection. Yeah. And it just became this catalyst to create, the person that I am now, to be more self-aware of everything that I was doing, not in a negative and an anxiety-induced way, but more in like a, how does what I do impact the world around me, And
well, there's intention in that of how you show up.
Exactly. It brings positivity to your own life.
Yeah.
Because when you feel like you're bringing a positive presence to people around you, you feel good as a person. That's just science, So it definitely helped me create that. I mean, I also obviously always have to give kudos to my sister and my mother, because they were strong female roles in my life as well.
Yes.
And again, gave me that ability to feel like I could, the feminine side of myself, connecting with that and expressing myself emotionally, without in any way taking away from the masculinity that I had.
Yes.
So it's been a journey. It's been quite a journey, and there's so many more little iterations of things that happen, but for the gist of it is that it was quite an expansive amount of time, energy, and thought that went into different things, and finally landed me to the point where I am now, where I know who I am, and I know what person I am, and I feel good about that person. You know, because everyone I talk to around me likes who I am as a person, and they feel like I'm bringing some positivity to their lives, So, and it doesn't mean that I stop. I keep self-reflecting. There are things that I still have to challenge inside myself.
Yes.
But all that does is now I'm even in a better place to do that, because I know that just is me becoming more of the butterfly that I need to become, right? By changing and becoming metamorphosizing, my own thoughts.
I'm always so interested, like, I feel like there's always different directions we can go, right? As we learn more about ourselves or as things happen. And sometimes we can withdraw, and turn inward or remove ourselves from situations, and then there's also times, which just sounds like what you're doing. I'm just so interested in it, is like you have these experiences and they make you say, okay, now that I know this about me, what can I do with it to help others, to advocate more, to like make that change, And
I found those opportunities, over the time that I started changing. When I was in Prince Albert, especially, this really started. I joined Big Brothers Big Sisters in Prince Albert because there was something inside of me that said I needed to help other people. Even at that point when I hadn't fully fixed myself, I knew there was something in me that I wanted to support others. So I joined Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I was partnered with this kid, Christian, who I just loved this kid. He came from an Indigenous family that was living in poverty in Prince Albert at the time, which was an unfortunate, situation that many were going through there.
Yeah.
But, the organization, his mother had brought him to the organization with, she was a single mother at the time, and she knew that he needed potentially more positive male reinforcement in his life.
Yeah.
And so I got matched with him, and that was such an eye-opening experience for me to be able to start to take on the thoughts and processes and growth of another person, and know in some way that what I was doing and how I was interacting with them was impacting how they developed. He was, I think he was, was he 9 or 10 at the time? So he was starting to go through that phase of like becoming more of a adult, and
starting to be like, who am I?
Exactly,
like,
questioning his person. He's not just a child anymore. He's moving into his life of who he's going to be, right?
Yes.
And so I stayed with him. I was his big brother for 2 years, and then when I left Prince Albert, I unfortunately had to dissolve that relationship. But when I left, it was funny. Like, I was his big brother, but I ended up also sort of semi-adopting his little brother into our adventures as well.
Yeah.
And I still have these. They gave me these drawings, saying thank you, and they were it was tough to leave that.
Do you keep in touch with them at all?
No, it was.
Or is that kind of how when you?
I think especially with that, it was like, there is obviously that security thing, because you don't want adults, corresponding with kids outside of that safety net of Big Brothers Big Sisters. Right. Totally understand that. But when I came to Bracebridge, I immediately looked up the Big Brothers Big Sisters chapter here locally, and got partnered with this this wonderful kid, Kyler, who he had done. This is so funny. He'd done. It's funny and sad. He'd done a article in the newspaper that he couldn't find a big brother. He kept getting matches that wouldn't stick with him. Okay. And it was really affecting him. His mother was single too.
It would, yeah.
Yeah. So he was living with his sister and his single mother, and like his father was not in the picture. And he did this news article where he'd like asked the pizza man if he'd be his big brother. Okay. So he was the first and only option they gave me at the time. The only I say is because we matched immediately. But I went to visit him that first time. He was so shy. He was hiding under the table, but I talked to his mom, and I really got a sense that this is a kid that I think I could connect with. Yeah. And now, so that he was 7 then. I have since left that organization, but I stayed well aligned with the family in this scenario, and his mother and I have become very, very good friends. And now he is he's a student at Laurentian University studying chemical engineering.
That's so cool.
And he was the kid that he hated homework, and he would come home with bad grades, and he was acting out a lot and all of those things. Yes. And I'm not saying that my entire presence was what led to this. There's a lot of different factors in his life that helped him get to where he was. But I do truly believe that, being around and guiding him through these things, and part of that for sure. Yes. And now he's he's a really smart kid now.
Yeah.
Not that he wasn't before, but he's really come into his own and, phenomenally going into this chemical engineering course.
Yes, which would be so far beyond me, but
it's
yeah, that's
crazy.
pretty...
So that's kind of where I started. And then when I left Big Brothers, so I actually became the chair of Big Brothers after that. The reason I left the organization was to become part of the board, because I knew at that time that I could start making significant changes and help in the community by being a part of the conversations that were happening. So I left and dissolved the partnership, but then ended up just being his big brother anyways outside of it, because Jen and I were very good. His mother were very good friends, and that level of trust was there. Ended up becoming the chair of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Muskoka and guided it through COVID, which was a very difficult period.
Also.
And then after that, I was like, I'm kind of going to move on from this. It was in a good place at the time.
Yeah.
And that point, Mind Aid had been in creation in the last couple. I think it had been about 3 years old. Maybe 2 or 3 years old at that point.
Were they like 2020?
They were, I think, about 2020 is when Jody kind of started the organization, and it would have been about 2023 when I jumped in.
Right.
And Jody and I were good friends. Jody North and I were good friends. She had been working for Muskoka Victim Services and started Mind Aid from there. And when she asked me one day, would you be interested in becoming a part of the Mind Aid board? I had been doing a lot of advocacy news stories for them.
Yes. And maybe tell, because I think people are probably familiar with Big Brothers Big Sisters, but Mind Aid Muskoka.
So Mind Aid is a mental health navigation service. So it basically, it's a start to finish partnering youth from 0 to 29 with the services that they need for their specific issues that they're experiencing in the mental health realm. So there is this is a huge net, obviously.
Yes.
And
because it's not just counseling.
No, it's a lot of, it is medical support,
housing.
There's all kinds of social issues. There's food related issues.
Yeah.
But on the basic sort of necessity of Mind Aid is that it provides that connection of, if a kid comes to them and says, I have this problem.
Yep.
They basically move hell on, heaven and earth itself to find them and they don't leave that connection until that youth is comfortably within the system that they need to be in. Even it's not just here's where you need to go and goodbye.
Here's the phone number.
Exactly. It's how are you doing with it? Is it going okay? It's a significant amount of time within the time that they're still getting the help they need to make sure that connection no longer needs to exist. And those kids will come back to if they need more help. So
it's quite, and it really, what impresses me with it is how it looks so systemically, like just whole picture of, let's think about like all the different things that might be impacting you right now.
Yeah, you try to imagine the spectrum of mental health issues that people deal with. And Mind Aid
and in a rural community, like, small towns.
Yes.
And they have like their mobile bus, right? That drives around, like talk about trying to make things accessible.
Essentially just trying to get more outreach to these kids so they know that it exists, right? Yes. And so when Jody asked me to join, I was, it fits so well at the time. I was looking for something else. I had actually just joined Muskoka Parry Sound Sexual Assault Services at the time. And so I was in that definite mindset of doing boards that made an impact in the community, well-being,
Yes.
And
you bring such a perspective, right? Of like, you've been involved with other organizations.
Yes.
You have so many community connections.
Yes.
That you've just organically on your own made, but also through work.
And I have life experience.
And you have, the mental health side. You have the side of working with young people.
Yes. There's a lot of boxes that get checked.
You're not just like filling a seat.
No, I'm not warming the seat at all. And I mean, that's really been the key component for me is if I'm going to keep being the chair, we're going to make changes. Well, not make changes, but we're going to move things forward in a way that I think needs to get done. And, I think under Jody's leadership with my assistance, I think that this organization has really blossomed out into something wonderful. Oh my gosh,
it's grown like exponentially. It's
100%.
Wild. Yeah.
Yes. And so, the majority of credit goes to Jody and the team. But obviously, I'm playing some role in that as well, which feels nice. So 100%, my entire thing about being the chair has been I want to be involved. I show up to events. Yes. I speak on behalf of Mind Aid and certain things. Yes. The team is small and doesn't have the opportunity to do those things a lot of the time. Yeah. And I'm a volunteer and it's, something I'm adding to my plate. But It's something that I care about, and I know how much work they put in, and it's not even close to what work I have already that I'm doing, and so I'm able to take on these opportunities sometimes to be a Mind Aid representative at different facilities and organizations. So.
Well, and I think when our projects, like the things we put on our plate, I think when they're value aligned.
Yes, they fit way better for us.
Yeah, and yes, it's for sure it's effort and it's time and it's energy, but it
doesn't feel as exhausting. It doesn't feel as exhausting when you're doing, you go away. For example, okay, so I went to Rick Maloney in the Mayor in Bracebridge. He likes to do this sort of social services roundtable thing, and he, as part of that, he likes to help promote what social services are doing in Bracebridge. Okay. And so this past year, it was very recently, he held a table session at the Muskoka Lumber Community Center, the new arena in Bracebridge, where all the social services organizations could come in and set up tables, and then people would walk by and,
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so it was a Saturday. It was like the busiest time of my life. I was so tired, but at the same time, I knew none of the other team could handle doing this at the time. So I was like, I'll go and do this. It was like 2 hours. Right. I left feeling so empowered and energized. I had gone in, but I kind of wish I wasn't having to do this today. Yes. Not in a negative way. I love doing these things, but it was definitely I was drained out.
Maybe not the choice. Yeah.
Exactly. But I left feeling so much better than when I had gone in because of the conversations that I had with people. It is such an energizing thing to be involved in something that you feel so strongly about.
Yes. And when you're so proud of the work it does.
100%.
To be able to, it's yes, you're sharing, but it's not just like sales. You're very genuinely talking about something that you love and you stand behind and that does good.
Yeah, I think whenever I talk about Mind Aid, I talk with conviction, and it bleeds through because it is something that I fully believe in. Yes. It goes back to,
you're not just selling a product.
No, it's a way of life. It's a way of thinking. I go back to when I was a kid. If Mind Aid had existed, I may be in a better situation than I was then. And the system failed me, unfortunately. My parents didn't fail me. My parents did everything they could. The system failed me. Yep. But the system doesn't need to fail these kids now. And these kids don't need to go through what I went through. And that's the most important thing that I think of every single time. I keep a couple of, we did an event quite a few years ago when I first became chair at the theater in Bracebridge, the Rain Case. And it was basically a fundraiser, and we'd put out quotes. I can't remember how we had collected these, but Jody had anonymous students write quotes about mental health. Okay. And we put them on chairs, and then people would pick them up and read them. Yes. A lot of them were sad. I'm going to be very honest about that. A lot of them were quite sad, and some were even a little bit disturbing from the perspective of these kids are going through it.
Struggling, yeah. And
so I kept 2 of them, and I framed them, and I keep them in my place to remind me of a lot of the reason why I do these things. And one of them was about how they appreciated, I'm just paraphrasing, one of the quotes was they appreciate mental health therapy that Mind Aid has helped them get. They were very realistic about it, that it doesn't fix them, but it makes things a little bit better. Yeah. The other one was a little more sobering, where it was that they just felt like no one understood them, and the world was kind of closing in around them. Yeah. And that's the reason I picked those 2, I actually picked them randomly, but the reason they stuck with me was because one was this sort of, that person is moving in the right direction. Yeah. The other one was, this person is moving in a direction that I am very concerned about. Yeah. Their own well-being and safety. And those 2 things exist in the mental health world, where we need to consider that positive things are happening, but people are still falling through the cracks, and not even Mind Aid can perfectly fix that scenario. Yes. So we have to keep working as hard as we can to try to seal those cracks as best as we can. And that, those framed quotes remind me of that every day. And not just for Mind Aid, but everything else that I'm doing. Just
everything you do. Yes.
So
yes. I don't think we can, and I don't think we can discount, I grew up in Southern Ontario. So, this idea of just, everyone has access to everything.
Yes.
I never questioned, really, because there was everything
Yeah.
there, right? And then through various moves, and some being extremely rural and, some being Parry Sound, I think just really faced with, that's actually not true. Yeah. They're really, it is in some places, but, really not in others. And up here, I think the lack of access is so significant, and being able to, as you would know, right? If someone's struggling, they need access when they need it in a way that they can get it. Yeah. And it's just not there. And so I think Mind Aid is just so not overlooked, but it just like, I don't think people realize the value that it brings.
I think it creates a scenario where me being involved in this organization has fundamentally continued to shift my own thought process on what I can be doing. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm serving as the board chair of Mind Aid, and in that way, I'm indirectly helping youth in the community. But that doesn't mean that I can't be helping youth directly either.
Right. So as we're looking back, like thinking of the different paths you've taken now, like as we're looking back, are there moments, like were there single moments or just an accumulation of moments that sort of led you to have, I don't know, the confidence or the like gumption, to kind of just follow your own path of feeling this out?
It's an interesting question because, there's been a lot of roadblocks that I've had in my life, and I don't think there's any defining moments that really pushed me in the direction that I went in. It was very universal. It was just life guiding me and me knowing well enough at least to go in the direction that I was being pushed in. Mm-hmm. The opportunities arising as they did, that journalism program suddenly becoming a expanded program. I wouldn't have gone into radio if that didn't happen, and who knows where I would be.
Yes.
And so it's
right.
And
your mental health journey, and maybe that would or wouldn't have led you into like Mind Aid.
100%. Yeah. If I hadn't come to terms with accepting the fact that I had anxiety and depression, I had something going on inside of me that wasn't working appropriately.
Yes.
I should mention quick, like I see a therapist and she's wonderful. And I've been seeing her for 4 years now. Anyways, when I first started seeing her, the first thing we started talking about, what are you dealing with? Like the feeler questions, right?
Sure.
And she was kind of asking me what are the things that I do to deal with the situations that I'm in.
Yeah.
And after I told her all the stuff I was doing, I won't go through it all now, but she was like, so what are you doing here? Like,
yes.
Like you really have everything kind of figured out in terms of like you have this toolkit.
You're kind of doing all the things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's like, that was a joke. Like obviously she sees there's value in talking to someone. That's part of the tool belt, but I have weathered this journey for so long. Mm-hmm. I have the moments that made up my life have defined where I am now. Mm-hmm. And have helped me build up the toolkit that I have. Mm-hmm. But I don't want other kids to have to do what I did to get here.
Yes.
And so all of these moments were important for me as a person to help me become who I was and the person that I am now.
Yes.
But, I need to do everything I can to make sure that other kids don't have to go through that, because it was not a pleasant experience to live in.
So it's what do you do with it now?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Now I'm aware of everything around me and what I've been through. Mm-hmm. I'm a different person than I was in my 20s. 100% I am. And, it's now I can use the knowledge that I have and the self-awareness and the all of the thoughts I have about life and the experiences that I've been through to help other people figure out these things earlier on.
Yes. And kind of the position you have too, because I don't know entirely how all your news stories, for example, get picked and things, right? But I do know that you definitely lean towards stories that give room for advocacy and community. And right, like, so,
there's definitely,
so even within you're using you're positioned to do that too.
There's a
right?
theme. There's a theme. And,
Yeah.
One time a couple of years ago, I said, I think I figured out my role in life, and that is to be a storyteller. And not just to tell my own story, but other people's.
Yes.
And that sounds basic, but it's not. There are so many levels of being a storyteller. And what primarily I've managed to do as a journalist is to give voice to people that don't have that opportunity to have a voice.
Yeah.
And that has been a really important aspect for me, even, when I started exploring outside of Ontario, and especially when I was living in Saskatchewan, to realize there were so many people that felt helpless and they didn't have a way of expressing what they were dealing with. And I had the ability to do that through the lens of telling a story, and so that, obviously there are other stories that I cover. There's other functions of news. For
sure.
Yes. And I do that, but if there's an opportunity to tell someone's story that I know they would not have an opportunity otherwise,
or that others might really need to hear.
Exactly. In this day and age, it's a little more watered down because of social media. Like anybody can just go on TikTok and start talking about stuff, right? So it becomes a little less relevant for me, but then I just adapt and I find new ways to do that, because there are still people that, now it's more of people don't feel comfortable doing it. They feel like maybe it's wrong to talk about their stories, and I'm there. It's become almost my personality to make someone feel comfortable enough to open up about those things.
Yeah.
And never push them. It's someone else's decision on whether or not they want to tell their stories.
Yeah.
But at least make them feel like they don't have to hide it.
Yeah.
At least to me. If all I've done is heard it and they don't want to go beyond that, that's something,
They still share their story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's become the new function for me now is to, I do get told quite often that I'm quite an approachable and easy person to talk to. And that is, again, a component of what I've done in life and been through.
Yes.
It is part of my personality. That has always been there. That a lot of that comes from my own mother. But it has been fed and it has grown and it has flourished into this, part of me that is very important that people see.
Yeah.
That, I still struggle to see, but everyone else sees apparently that, there's something about me that makes them want to talk. And
yes. You just have to keep listening to other people.
Exactly.
Who tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do.
You do.
But that's what made me believe this is my function in life.
Yeah.
People want to talk to me. They want to open up to me.
Yeah.
And I can
You can give them a platform.
Exactly.
Through which to share their stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all of this idea of what's next? Do you want to open into what's next?
Yeah, I can do that. No, I can definitely do that. I mean, there's a lot of things happening that I can't talk about right now that some people are aware of. But what I can say is that things are changing for me right now. This is a significant year of change. I will say my mother passed away just over a year ago in 2024, in December, just before Christmas. And that moment, we're talking about significant moments, that was a significant moment for me to know that what I was doing was no longer serving me in a way that was making me happy. And so, and it's that I say that, but I'm going to add that that is not the cause of anyone or anything that I'm involved in. It's just where I am in life.
Yep.
So it's my own thing.
Big things happen and they give us pause.
Yes.
To
reconsider where we are.
Yeah. Look at things with a different perspective.
And that's what led to me creating this business. Yep. But it also started a spark in me of there was something else that I felt I wanted to do that could potentially positively impact people around me on a larger scale than what I'm doing right now.
Right.
And so I'm pursuing that now, and that's been an interesting journey. It is going to lead to a lot of stress and anxiety for me, which is already caused. But if things go the way that I hope they do, it's really going to lead to more positivity in my life and in other people's lives, because I can be an advocate for people on such a higher scale. Yeah. Which is really, again, it falls back to my function of telling people's stories in different ways that are innovative. It doesn't just have to be telling a story. It can be telling a story through a different lens and helping someone in that way.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm going right now with it. And again, more information will become available. So what you're saying is
we have to stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And
yes.
In
a couple of months, maybe.
I was going to say, you come back.
Yeah, we can talk again.
And then you can share more.
I can definitely share more. Yeah. I think no matter what, I hope that people are excited for me and feel supportive of what I want to do, because what I want to do is to help other people. I'll end by saying that when I talked about ego and how it's good or bad, and it doesn't really need to be bad as a whole.
Yes.
My own ego involves the idea that when I'm gone, which is going to happen to all of us, I'm not concerned about being remembered. What I would like to have happened is that I have caused a positive ripple effect in the world that I live in that has impacted people in a positive way. So the actions that I take now are the ones that are making change in a positive way for the people around me.
Yeah.
And I don't care that people don't know that I'm doing that or not. That's not what I'm about. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that it happened. And so really my entire functionality now is a very famous quote of, be the change you want to see in the world. It doesn't matter who said it. It's the words themselves mean something to me, not the person. Because that's what I want to do, is be the change that I want to see in the world. Yeah. And that doesn't involve me seeing my name anywhere in any of that, because that doesn't matter. What matters and what really is the true sign of success is seeing the ripple effects that I've made move outwards and positively impact other people without me being involved in any way whatsoever.
Yes. Which is like such a beautiful idea. And it also, sometimes then I wish too that we could somehow see it, have that like viewpoint of like
this
watching.
Is the other thing. I think, you realize when you're gone, you're gone. So whether people remember your name or not is not the thing that matters. But when I die eventually, if I can know what I did, if I can know that those things happened and that I feel that I did the best I could to make them happen in a positive way, that will be my final thoughts. Yeah. And that's probably the best thing that I can give myself before I'm gone.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I love that. You're making change. Like I know you are. You already are. So if it's on a bigger scale, then that's good. Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to seeing all that comes for you.
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and being a part of this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Exception Seekers. Tune in again as we continue to seek overlooked stories that offer new perspectives, disrupt limiting beliefs, and inspire transformative approaches to nurturing youth mental health.
This podcast was produced by North Star Networks, the guiding light for progressive media.